and welcome to MyCounselor.Online. I'm your host, Brittany East, and joining me today as our featured counselor is Sarah Williams. Sarah is diving into a pretty tricky topic about sharing hard parts about destructive relationships. Before we dive into that, though, Sarah, can you share a little bit about yourself for those viewers who may not know you yet?
Sure. Hi, I'm Sarah. I am outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I have 4 kids, so we're pretty busy over here. I've been with MCO for a little bit over a year and love it. And I just have wanted to be a counselor since I was in college. I felt like it was a calling from God, so I changed my major and eventually now here I am.
That's amazing. We're really happy to have you in the NCO family, Sarah. So your article is titled Sharing the Truth of Your Destructive Relationship, which is kind of a piggyback on another article where we talked about identifying being in a destructive relationship. So in your previous article, you talked about that. Can you give a brief reminder about what is a destructive relationship, or how can you identify if you're in one?
Sure. So a lot of relationships have a component in them that something is disappointing. That's pretty typical, but a destructive relationship crosses that boundary into it's actually harmful. And it can be really difficult to identify it because a lot of times nobody else sees the experiences that you're having. So it can be really confusing. Maybe you're not sure what exactly is going on or how harmful it is or how destructive it is. There might be things like deception and lying. There might be name calling. It might be something like a lot of criticism. There's just a lot of different things that can be really harmful, and it can be hard to figure it out. Hard to have that experience validated when you're all on your own with it.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It sounds like if you're in it, it's hard to see it. What was the way, I can't remember what you brought up last time in your article, that you said there was a kind of a way to sit back to be able to identify it because you're in it.
Yes. So journaling can be a great way to do that because when it's all in your brain, it's hard to remember everything and keep track of it. So if you start keeping a journal and just writing down the experiences that you're having, how you're feeling about everything, then you have something concrete. You can go back and look at it and start to see those patterns that are happening over time.
No, that totally makes sense because it kind of gives you a minute to step back or even go. I'm not journaling about destructive relationship. I think about just journaling in general. And you're like, oh, I forgot that
Yes,
that happened, or just that viewpoint. So that totally makes sense. That's really helpful.
exactly.
And so this part is talking about sharing this with someone else. So what can make someone feel like they aren't allowed to share this part of their lives? Or why is it even important to share it?
Sure. Sometimes it's something that you've heard directly from your partner that, hey, we don't talk about these things. We don't talk about what's going on.
Wow.
So you might not want to share because of that. Or it could be something that we as Christians hear that it's not okay to complain or to talk badly about our spouse. Or maybe you just, you care about them and you don't want other people to think badly about them. And that if you think if you tell the truth about what's happening, then other people will have these negative thoughts. And so maybe sometimes that keeps you from sharing about it too.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I think, it's so true. I feel like even the Christian aspect of well, I want to uplift my spouse. I want to
Mhm.
be a good
Yeah,
partner.
right.
And it's hard though, because there's that dichotomy of everything needs to be in the light though,
Right.
that God calls us to do.
Yes.
So why do you feel like it's important then? So if it feels scary, or it feels like maybe even betraying your spouse, why is it so critical though that you do share, if you recognize that you're in a destructive relationship?
Yeah. Well, if you think you might be in a destructive relationship, and even if you're not really sure, then having some other eyes on it, some other people hearing what you're experiencing, it helps you not to feel as alone and as crazy. And it can help you just weigh what's happening and how bad is it, and start to figure out what really is going on. Somebody else to help see those patterns and to help you get some clarity.
Yeah, that makes sense. But how is there can you pick anyone, or what's your advice about picking someone to share this with?
Yeah, it's a good idea to think about who you want to pick and not pick just anybody. You want somebody that you've had some kind of relationship with over time, or somebody that you think would be able to handle it well, that would be trustworthy. Maybe you've told them, other parts of your life, not necessarily this one, and they've handled it really well. Or also somebody that will be able to be honest with you. They're not
Mm.
just going to listen and maybe not provide any feedback, but that they have the ability to tell you the truth about what they see.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So, so if maybe you're on the opposite end, like you're the friend being told, like, hey, like I think I'm in this destructive relationship, or what do you see? Like, what are some ways to like respond, or how can you best support someone then who's going through that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the first thing is just to believe them, to believe the
Mm.
experiences that they're sharing with you, um, because they might have had an experience of not being believed, or they may be experiencing that with their partner. They may not get that validation from their partner. So, even just starting there for your friend, just believe what they're telling you and ask them how you can help. Help that friend to have a sense of agency, like that they're able to make decisions, because that friend is able to do that. They just may not feel like they are in that moment. So let them know that you'll support them, whatever those decisions are, and that they do have choices. They may not realize they do or feel like they do, but they do have some choices, and that it's okay. It's okay to reach out for help.
Yeah, if someone feels like they don't really have a friend or family they feel like they can trust with something like that, like would going to a counselor be a good option at that point? Or what do you suggest to that person who feels like I don't have a safe friend or family member?
Yeah, absolutely. A counselor is a great option. And if you have a journal, you can bring that with you, or you
Mm.
can just start to share what those experiences have been. And yeah, counselors can help you weigh what's been happening and help you see that clarity as well.
No, that totally makes sense. Well, and for anyone who's watching this, like what's the last piece of advice you might give to someone as they're like getting ready to take that step to share about their destructive relationship?
Sure. So I would say you might feel like you're really alone, but you're
Mm.
not. Like there are a lot of people who have experienced something like this,
Yeah.
and finding somebody to support you will be a game changer. Like you'll be able to have clarity to stop the confusion that maybe it feels like you're stuck in, and that there are safe people who can be there for you, and that you do have choices. It can get better.
Thanks, Sarah. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to dive into kind of a heavy topic. It sounds like just
Yeah.
that someone could be in a relationship where they don't feel safe or feel
Mhm.
like maybe they don't get to be the person they feel like they were meant to be. And just helping them to like have a lot of tools in their belt to get not necessarily even get out, but like to see that and to
Yes.
start moving forward. So
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing like your thoughts on that. It's very clear that you like care for these people. They want them to feel
Well,
safe.
thank
That's
you.
great. Yeah, of course. And for those of you who have joined us today, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. If you are interested in hearing about other interviews that we've had about different mental health topics or things that our NCO counselors can help anyone with, you can find us on Facebook if you search Love My Counselor. You can find us on Instagram as well if you search the same thing, Love My Counselor. And on YouTube, if you search MyCounselor.Online Christian Counseling, you will find a lot of archived videos. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time for another episode of My Counselor Online.